This drive for completeness, again, can take us into extremely weird realms like antiques, where collections and unique antiques relate. Baudrillard points out the weird story of a bibliophile who was obsessed with owning books. He learned of an identical copy of an extremely rare book he owned, a book that should have been completely authentic with no other copies. He went to the bookstore with the copy, burned it, and summoned a lawyer to create an affidavit of the copy's destruction. He then was able to proceed with his life totally content. There is a fetish towards authenticity, a mastery of time that can be partially understood by a central lack present in our existence, thus filling a void through our commodity.
Holy shit. This is so bizarre. But this is yet another thing that I came here to try to learn this shit and study, but it keeps becoming more like real, and to me it becomes more personal than I really expected, which is how I got here in the first place. But in addition to, I mentioned earlier, when I was younger, I had this feeling that, or I expressed myself to people that that there are no rules, because there, or I just would point out that there's physically nothing stopping me from breaking any of the rules, and it was like, they were all like, duh, everybody knows that, everybody already knows that. But to me, it was like something that I would continuously state. I don't know if it was like, I think back then it was just like I was rebel, I was being edgy. It wasn't actually, I obviously didn't have the backing, I didn't have the understanding. But it's just so weird to me, because this part too, the fetish of authenticity and time, is another thing I have that haunts me, that I've had this issue for since I was very young, or I guess just not very young, but whenever I first played video games, where when I realized that a game that's connected to a server online games, all my progress, my achievements, my things that I would compete over, be competitive about, are saved somewhere on a server, so there's proof that I achieved it, and everyone can see that it's real. Not even just that other people can see it, but that for me, it felt safe that I did it, because it's held somewhere, it's stored somewhere, there's a bit flipped. Whereas for single player games, it always bothered me once I realized that you could just change the game files, even if I didn't know how to specifically do it for that game, or change what I was going to change. Just the fact that it was possible. Single player games have always, like I said, like haunted me, giving me this eerie, skin crawly feeling that what I accomplished is not as real, because I could just type, I could change anything I could change the name of any object in the game. I could give myself infinite money. I could type into the game, I could type into the files that I beat the game. You could, you can imagine that that's possible. You could just say it, and then you beat the game. And I would never execute that process, but the fact that it was a thing that was possible, I've always felt weird about it. I felt like, I don't know, that it's less, that as I'm achieving the goals in the game, it's like, it would hurt. It would make me wince, that I could have just as easily, if not easier, more easily, I could have typed that I did the thing instead of actually doing it. And so yeah, that being so real, and not just, I don't know, it's sort of giving me a fucking a chilling feeling that, like, it's not just that I'm learning a concept, it's like it's so real that this is the world, or that the world that I believe in, or the specific thing that I have focused on in the world since I was young, since before I even knew the first thing about academia, before I knew the first thing about philosophy or sociology. I knew nothing, and these were things that bothered me, right from that, video games being the fetish of authenticity and time, video games that were single player, not being real enough, or counting. They don't count as much in my head, which ironically, actually, if you think about it, my problem isn't solved by an online game, because there's theoretically somebody there that works at the company or that designed the game that could have just wrote that I won in there. It's funny because I just realized now that even my problem is never solved, that everything I'm doing in this game is like I'm hitting this thing, I'm getting the gold, but the fact that it's just a thing, a toast, an image showing up on the screen that says 36 gold, the item dropped, you got the item. The fact that someone else made it to almost trick me to think that 36 gold dropped, right? They designed it to make me think 36 gold dropped and that I picked it up, when in reality it's just a symbol that they made, or they designed a program that when I do one action with the mouse, I get another action happens that it convinces me that it's really weird to think about, again, how real this is, and not just like philosophy, a theory. It's like my life and my being and reality, like existential reality, the whole thing of that authenticity shit, and that I would do that. I can't remember what portion of Baudrillard it was that he was mentioning, but it was in the previous stream, that when I was a kid, I would always be like, now it's not that, there's nothing actually stopping me from doing from not doing what you told me to do. And it's like I always negged myself for it, where I would think like, not back then obviously because I was a kid and I knew everything, but I've thought since then, like, man, that is an annoying trait to just like bring that up even twice, let alone once, right? I would bring it up, or not let alone, that's the other direction. I did it in the wrong order. Once, let alone twice, or multiple times, or probably 100 times, honestly. I feel so bad for my parents. The fact that I was doing that before understanding this language and philosophy and the writings of these nerds it's just creepy. It's like it emerged from me because I'm a person in the world, and these guys have like kind of figured it out, and they wrote about it. I don't know. It's trippy.